Good day, everyone. In this video, I will explain access modifiers in C#. This video is based on Tim Corey's video on the same subject. However, his video is kind of long. Very recommended to watch though. I'll link it in the description, but I wanted to do another look on access modifiers, reiterate what he has said, maybe in less time. Personally, when I learn stuff, if I don't quite understand something, maybe I need to hear it from multiple sources or from multiple people. So maybe this video will be helpful to you for that reason. So currently, what's the structure? What do we have? Here's the solution that has two projects, as you probably expect them to be called. So one project and another project. Interestingly enough, they can also be called assemblies. Why? Because when we go to, I think, object or debug, essentially somewhere here you will see a DLL or an executable, which is the assembly. Why am I talking about this? This will come back later. So we have main and other. In main, the only file that we have is program.cs. And in other, we have three classes. So three files with three classes. And other by itself is a class library, but what type it is, it really doesn't matter. For you to keep track, program is in main, that's the only thing. Everything else is in other, and the names of the files also reflect that. So we have multiple methods with all the different access modifiers and their combinations as well. We will try to access each one of them and see where we can and where we can't. So let's start with public. Public is the kind of default option that you would choose, especially if you come for a different language and you don't have access modifiers. You're like, public, I guess. And public is like you can access it anywhere. We will use this method to check by IntelliSense whether we do or don't have access to it. So let's try to call it public method, and here it is, which means we do have access to it. There is the other class. This class extends or is derived from this class, so it's a child of that class. Once again, that will come back to later. So once again, we try to call public method, and we can. Perfect. And there is another class, which is in the same project or in the same assembly. And it doesn't derive from other class, it's just another class in the same project. And we can do public, hold on, I simply misspelled, public method. Hold on, interesting. Why can't I call it? In theory, I should be able to. Oh, right, because this is a class, and I actually need to use the class to call this method. It's not a function, it's a method. The reason why it worked here is because in a child class, you have access to methods from the base class, from the parent class or super class. So here we didn't need to specify other class. We can, but we don't need to, because we have direct access to it, since it's a child class. Here we don't, here we actually need to specify the other class, or hold on, class, boom. And now we can. Okay, what's next? Next, let's try to call it in program.cs. So once again, other class, public method. Yep, we can. Cool, let's get to the next one, private. What does private mean? Essentially, as far as I know, the only, the most precise way to explain it is it's only accessible in this same class. So while you're inside of here, you can use it. If you're outside of this class, you cannot. So let's try this again. Try to call private method. Okay, we can. Can we do the same thing in the child class of this class? No, we can't. There's private protected, but that's something different. So we can't do it here. Can we do it in a completely different class, but in the same project, in the same assembly? So other class, private, nope, we can't. Can we do it in program? Well, I guess you can expect that we can't. Private, and here we aren't. We can't. Which means this private method, or any private method, or a private property, or a private field, can only be accessed within this class. Why is this useful? To make your code drier and easier to follow, you might split your huge single method into multiple ones, which are called specifically and only in this class and nowhere else. So you use private for that. Okay, internal. I've been saying assembly a lot. What do I mean? It's about internal, actually. So internal is a scope modifier or access modifier. Essentially, you can access this method only while in the same assembly. Meaning somewhere here there's a DLL, I guess not yet. And by assembly, Microsoft means project. To me, the word assembly sounded kind of vague, but you can see as internal as this project. So, once again, I'll spare you the time. We can call it here, we can call it here, we can call it here, but not here because it's a different project. As you saw, program is in main, and the internal method that we're looking at is in other. So it's only going to be accessible in other. And it doesn't matter if it's a derived class or if it's a completely different class or anything. As long as it's in this project, in the other project, you will be able to access it, but not from within. Okay, protected. This is where the derived class comes into play, and it will the last two as well. So, obviously we can call it here in this same class. Essentially, no matter what access modifier or combination of access modifiers you put, you can call them all in the same class. So you don't have to worry about that. However, we also have access to protected, to the protected method in the derived class or the child class. Cool, that's what you expect, but we don't have access to it from just some random other class. Yeah. So we can't access it here. What's the difference? This is a child class. This is not. Essentially, protected means in this current class and all of its children. So that's pretty useful. And what's even cooler than that, let's make a class, I don't know, program2. Named stuff better for sure, but this is just an example. So we can do other class. Oh, hold on. And we make this class a child of other class as well. So currently, while this derived class is in other, this is in main, so a different project. And what's cool is that we can still access protected method, because this is a child of the class. Even though it's in a different project, we still can. And actually, we don't have to even specify the class since it's a child. Cool. Really useful. Now, these two. So, hold on. Protected internal and private protected. Those confused me to no end by the fact that they used two keywords that I'm already familiar with. And I couldn't understand the logic behind that. And I actually found some sort of logic that I follow, and I find it really nice. So essentially, the first word is what this method is when it's outside of this project. So it's protected. But if it's inside of this project, it's internal. Saying that again. So here we are in the main project, which is different. It's not other. While we are here, the protected internal method is protected. So we can access it. Let's actually do that. Protected internal. See, we can access it because here it's protected, and we can't access it like here because the program is not a child class of other class, but here it is. So here is protected, but now we're in the other project. While we are here, it's internal, meaning we can access it from wherever in this same project. So essentially, you can look at this, like kind of visualize it. This is the outside word, and this is the inside, and this is the inside word. So while inside of the same project, it's the second word. And while outside, so the first word, it's protected. This is a visualization that really helped me understand this. Like, it doesn't create a whole new meaning. No, not really. It just is different things depending on what project you're in. Yeah. And let's go to private protected. We can use the same idea here as well. So while we are in a different project, it's private, meaning we can't access it at all. So we have this derived class in main where we could access protected internal because it became protected. But we won't be able to access private protected. See, the IntelliSense doesn't work because we can't. because even though it's a child, it's in a different project, so we can't use it. But going to other derived, and now we can actually call private protected because we're in the same project. So when we are inside, it's protected. We can access it from a child class. But when outside, we can't access it at all. It becomes private. And this is essentially it for all of them. The idea of how each of those work is pretty nice to understand, but you don't get it truly until you try this out. So I'm gonna leave a link to all of the code that I showed you here for you to play around with in the description. So if you enjoyed this video, maybe you learned something, press a like, type some comments, definitely subscribe so you don't miss more of my videos, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.